Researchers who take Bigfoot seriously don't take every alleged Bigfoot video seriously. In fact, they're often the first to call foul on the fakers. So when they tell us they've seen video they think is legit, we take a look too.
They didn't believe it at first. Who would? A string of enormous footprints east of Seattle, cutting clean through untouched snow. No signs of struggle, no signs of hesitation. Just massive, deliberate strides heading straight into the forest like they belonged there. Some brushed it off as a hoax. But then came the cameras. Trail cameras, meant to catch deer, coyotes, even bears, started to pick up something else. Something that stood up straight, that didn't flinch at flashes, that walked through the wilderness like it owned the place. And that was only the beginning. It broke the trap, and then it broke the silence. In 2013, a wild boar trap captured more than its builder bargained for. The rig, built strong enough to hold feral hogs, snapped shut on something much bigger. It was a towering figure, calm, unmoved, staring out through the bars. There was no roar, no panic, just silence. Its arms, too long, too thick, shifted with an eerie grace. The posture didn't match anything local, and just as quickly as it appeared, it left, cleanly. No wounds, no hesitation. The trap, bent open like paper, the woods, once again still. Some say it was the first clear message that these creatures are not animals. They don't thrash, they don't panic, they watch. In 2010, deep in unmarked woods.
Oh, check it out. Look at a little black bear on the side of the hill. Let me get it silent.
A discovery chilled a research team to the bone. There, under a blanket of leaves, lay a small body, black-furred, narrow, with wide shoulders and unnaturally long arms. It wasn't a bear cub. There were no claw marks, no wounds, no drag trails, just a body, carefully placed, as if hidden by something else. Some said juvenile Sasquatch, others stayed silent, but none could explain how something of that size could lie untouched in the heart of the forest, or why there weren't any tracks. In 2015, there was another sighting. It was nearly 10 feet tall, a towering shape cutting through the forest with calm, deliberate steps. Thick, dark hair covered its body, and the way it moved was almost hypnotic. There was no rush in its pace, no tension in its limbs. It didn't move like a predator hunting prey, nor like an animal fleeing danger. Instead, it walked with the quiet confidence of something that had known these woods far longer than any human ever could. It passed the trail camera without hesitation. Whether it noticed the lens or not, it showed no sign of concern. Perhaps it saw the device and simply didn't care. Its stride was too steady, too practiced, to be random. The posture, the ease, the fluidity, all of it pointed to one thing. This wasn't an intruder in the wild. This was something that lived there, something that belonged. The snow trail that made no sense.
Intriguing discovery is being investigated in a community east of Seattle. Someone came across a lengthy trail of extremely large footprints. Now, a Sasquatch investigator is looking into the matter, which has also piqued the interest of a renowned researcher here on the island. CTV's Gord Kurbis reports.
But that wasn't the only humbling sighting. In a quiet community east of Seattle, someone found a pattern too precise to ignore. A trail through snow, wide, deep, and perfectly spaced. No animal walks like that. Not bears, not elk. The spacing between the steps alone ruled them out. No dragging, no hopping. Just footprints that told a story of something walking tall, strong, and undisturbed into a forest that didn't want company. In 2018, deep within the forests of Western Canada, a seasoned hunter witnessed something that defied everything he thought he knew about the wild. Through the trees, a massive figure burst into view, sprinting effortlessly across the terrain with strength and speed that seemed unreal. But it wasn't alone. Following closely behind was another large creature, slightly smaller, moving with a sense of urgency, but not panic. And beside her, barely able to keep up, was a third figure, much smaller, unsteady, struggling to match their pace. It wasn't chaos. This wasn't the erratic movement of startled animals fleeing danger. There was a rhythm to it, purpose. The way they moved together, close, aware of one another, was unmistakable. This was not a random encounter. This was a family. Most Bigfoot sightings involve a solitary figure, shrouded in mystery and distance. But this was different. This was a glimpse into something deeper, a bond, a structure, possibly even a society. In Michigan's Cass River, 2021, a couple caught a glimpse of something else, a giant figure, red-haired, walking waist-deep in icy water. In its arms, a smaller body. It crossed the river like it was nothing, silent, steady. The power in its steps was obvious, but what struck the couple most was the care. No aggression, just quiet protection, like a parent shielding their child from the world. There wasn't just one Bigfoot to find. There was an entire species out there. The bush didn't hide it, but it didn't run. In 2015, a lone camper set up his site deep in the wilderness, far from roads, trails, or the reach of cell towers. He had come for solitude, to disconnect, to breathe in silence. But silence in the wild isn't always empty. As he sat by his campfire, something in the nearby brush shifted. At first it was subtle, a rustle, the faint parting of leaves. Then he saw it. A massive head emerged from the shadows, nearly twice the size of a human's. Dark fur framed a face with deep-set eyes that locked onto his and didn't look away. There was no sound, no growl, no lunge, just a stillness that felt heavier than any roar. The creature didn't run. It didn't even flinch. It stood there, calm, collected, as if it knew exactly where it was and who was watching. It gave off no sense of fear or threat. It was simply present, and that's what unsettled the man most. This wasn't an animal caught off guard. It was something that had been watching long before the camper even noticed. Something that knew it didn't need to hide, and something that, even in silence, made it perfectly clear it wasn't the one who should be afraid. In 2013, a trail camera captured something few had ever seen in such detail. A Sasquatch, seated calmly in the forest. There was no pacing, no defensive behavior, no sound, just slow, rhythmic breathing and complete stillness. It didn't react to the presence of the camera. It didn't appear startled or even curious. After a moment, it stood, smoothly, silently, and walked away. There was no urgency in its steps, no sense of being caught or cornered. It behaved as if the moment had been intentional, as if it had chosen to be seen, and then decided that was enough. In 2015, a security camera captured something unusual just beyond the edge of a bush line. A humanoid figure, crouched low, remained nearly invisible in the dark foliage, never stepping fully into view. But what gave it away were its eyes. They glowed, not from a camera flash or reflection, but from within, casting a faint, eerie light. Its posture was unlike anything recorded from known wildlife, and its movements, though minimal, were impossibly smooth, lacking the jerky reactions of even the most agile predators. Experts who reviewed the footage were puzzled. The figure didn't match the anatomy of a human, nor any known species of animal. It was something else entirely. And for many, the conclusion was chilling. This wasn't a creature caught by accident. It was something built to remain hidden, and perhaps something that never expected to be seen at all. A hobbit in the jungle. Deep in the dense forests of Indonesia, a man captured something extraordinary on video. It was small, only about 3 to 4 feet tall, and stood upright at the edge of the tree line. At first glance, it didn't resemble anything familiar. It wasn't a monkey, and it certainly wasn't human. The figure remained completely still, watching. Its presence was quiet but deliberate, as if it were observing rather than hiding. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished into the jungle. No sound followed. No footprints were left behind. Some believe this was evidence that the long-extinct Homo floresiensis, the so-called Flores hobbit, may never have disappeared at all. Maybe it simply learned how to stay hidden in the one place few dare to explore. In 2015, a woman hiking alone had an encounter she would never forget. While moving through a patch of trees, she locked eyes with a towering figure, easily 8 feet tall, with thick muscle under dark fur and an overwhelming physical presence. But the creature didn't act aggressively. It didn't snarl or charge. It didn't even run. Instead, it took one slow step backward, then another, disappearing into the dense brush behind it with a grace that seemed unnatural for something so massive. It didn't feel like the first time it had done this. It felt practiced, as if it had stood face to face with humans before, and would again. Gone without a sound. In 2022, a camper spending the night deep in North America's wilderness was startled awake by the unmistakable sound of snapping branches near his tent. Something was moving, heavy, deliberate, and close. Grabbing his flashlight, he stepped into the darkness, heart pounding. What he saw froze him. Just yards away sat a massive figure, completely still, nearly blending into the night. It didn't make a sound. It didn't even flinch as the beam of light landed directly on it. Then, in an instant, the creature was gone. There was no crashing through the underbrush, no stomping footsteps, no signs of retreat. When the camper searched the area, he found nothing. No tracks, no broken twigs, no scent. It was as if the creature had never been there at all. In 2024, a trail camera positioned deep within the woods of East Texas captured something deeply unsettling and possibly intelligent. The footage showed a massive creature, at least 8 feet tall, gripping a thick tree branch with both hands. Then it struck, The creature slammed the branch against another piece of wood, not in panic, but in a slow, deliberate rhythm, over and over again. It wasn't random, it wasn't aimless, it was a pattern. Researchers immediately drew comparisons to great apes, which use sticks to send warnings, claim territory, or even attract attention. But there was no gorilla. The creature's frame was broader, its arms longer, its presence far more imposing. Despite the camera's high quality, its face remained obscured, always just out of clear view. Truck stop witness. In Alberta, 2014, a trucker parked his rig and casually filmed the forest while resting. He caught something more than trees. Standing upright at the edge of the woods was a towering figure, watching, not moving, not threatening, just observing. Long arms, a broad chest, and an unshakable stare, like it already knew everything it needed to know. Another trail footage was found in 2024. A train passenger caught sight of something unusual, large, upright, and hairy. It didn't run, it didn't freeze, it simply sat, then blended into the stone. Most Bigfoot sightings happen in thick forest, under the shadow and cover. But this was wide-open terrain, and still, it vanished. In the damp forest floor of the Pacific Northwest, researchers uncovered what looked like an eye socket, and then they found a skull. It was massive. At first, they thought it belonged to a bear, but the bone structure, the jawline, it was too human, too primate. It was larger than any primate ever documented, and shockingly intact. There's a lot of footage on what Bigfoot looks like, but not enough on what it sounds like. One trail cam caught a creature 10 feet off the ground, perched above a feeder. It wasn't just hiding, it was watching. And then, it screamed, a bone-rattling roar toward the lens, mouth wide open, head tilted toward the sky, and then, just like that, it disappeared into the canopy. Many viewers called it unnatural, possessed, but none denied what it looked like: Bigfoot. White as snow, still as ice. In 2011, a camper felt the weight of eyes on him. When he turned, he saw it, a massive white figure in the distance, staring at him, silent, unblinking. But when he blinked, it was gone. No sound, no trail, just cold air and that feeling in his spine that he was still being watched. In the heart of a North American forest, a trail camera captured something that didn't behave like any known animal. The footage showed a massive, fur-covered figure pressing its back against a tree, but instead of scratching or rubbing like a bear, it was slowly swaying. The movement was steady, controlled, almost purposeful. Its fur was unusually thick, and the shape of its body, especially its broad back, immediately ruled out common wildlife. Some experts who reviewed the footage proposed a startling possibility. This creature might have been marking the tree, a behavior often seen in great apes to claim territory or send messages. But this wasn't an ape. It was far too large, far too deliberate, and whatever it was, it seemed to know exactly what it was doing. A man walking alone through a remote woodland came across something that brought him to a full stop. Just a few feet off the trail stood a tall, humanoid figure with tangled, matted hair hanging down its body. But it wasn't just the size that paralyzed him. It was the horn-like protrusion rising from its forehead. The figure didn't move. It didn't blink. Its arms were crossed tightly against its chest, like it had been carved in place, not out of stone, but out of raw wilderness and silent power. It didn't feel like an animal. It felt like a monument, an ancient guardian still standing watch in a forest that never stopped keeping its secrets. Black figure in motion. In the dense wilderness, a shadow moved through the trees, large, upright, and silent. The figure was estimated to be between 8 and 10 feet tall. It made its way across rough, unforgiving terrain with terrifying ease. Every step was slow but confident. It didn't stumble, it didn't slip, it didn't need to. The figure blended perfectly into the shadows, as if it were made of them, and then it was gone. No sign, no sound. Just a hole in the light where something massive had been. 3 hikers spent the day filming their casual trek through the woods. At the time, nothing unusual stood out. No strange sounds, no odd shapes. But when they reviewed the footage later, their perspective changed. In the far corner of one shot, something moved, fast, low to the ground, and covered in dark hair. It darted between trees before vanishing. They hadn't seen it in real time, but whatever it was had seen them. In 2010, a family living in a remote home captured something terrifying just outside their window. Through the glass, a face appeared. It was massive, framed by long, dark hair, with deep-set eyes that stared into the room, not with rage or hunger, but with eerie focus. It didn't bang, it didn't growl, it just stood there, watching. And before anyone inside could react, the creature vanished without a trace. No damage, no sign, just silence, and the unsettling feeling of being studied. In 2020, a man released a video showing something unbelievable. A frozen body, humanoid in shape and massive in size. He claimed his father had found it decades earlier, during wartime, and kept it hidden ever since. The body was shockingly intact. The fur hadn't decayed. The limbs were solid. And most haunting of all, it didn't look dead. It looked paused, as if frozen in time. Experts debated what could preserve a creature so completely. Some suggested the natural cold. Others whispered about something less natural, something that wanted it hidden, and had kept it that way for years. The drone that got too close. In Alaska, 2015, a drone operator was flying his device over a dense stretch of forest, just exploring for fun, no expectations, no destination. But then, something unexpected appeared on his screen. A figure walked into frame. It wasn't a moose. It wasn't a person. It moved upright, with heavy, deliberate strides, its body covered in hair and shaped like a man who hadn't seen civilization in generations. The drone dipped lower to get a better look, but just as quickly as it had appeared, the figure vanished. One moment, it was moving clearly across the forest floor, and the next, it was gone, swallowed whole by the trees before the lens could refocus. Whatever it was, it didn't want to be seen for long. In 2023, a research team working deep in the forests of Oregon wasn't there looking for legends, but the forest had other plans. They first heard it, branches cracking under weight, heavy knocking sounds, and a series of deep, guttural vocalizations that echoed through the trees like something alive was calling out. Quickly, they launched their thermal drone, hoping to catch whatever was making those sounds. What they saw sent a jolt through the team. A massive heat signature, upright and enormous, was moving effortlessly through the underbrush. Before they could lock the camera onto it, the figure darted off screen. Just like that, it was gone. But even after the drone lost visual contact, the team couldn't shake the sound or the feeling. In 2017, a man out walking near the edge of the forest saw something that made him question his own senses. At first, it was just a shape, large, still, but then he saw the eyes. They weren't reflecting light like an animal caught in a flashlight. They weren't glassy like deer in the dark. They were glowing from within. A deep, dull red glow, like embers that never cooled. The creature stood tall, with sleek white fur, completely still, watching him. And the second he blinked, it was gone. No sound, no footprints. Nothing remained but a memory and a strange sensation that the air around it had been warped, as though light had bent or time had slowed. He left in a rush, but that feeling never left him. The one in the trees. In the forests of Maine, a trail camera caught something extraordinary. A creature wasn't climbing a tree. It was perched at the top, sitting still as stone. From its outline, it was clear. This wasn't a bird or a large cat. It was humanoid, covered in shadowy, thick fur. But the face? There wasn't one. Where its features should have been, there was only blackness, a void, like someone had erased its face altogether. And yet, when it turned to look at the camera, there was no doubt. It knew it was being watched, and it was watching back. Two young boys were out in the forest, picking fruit, laughing, unaware of anything strange around them. Then, the basket rustled. They looked down from the low tree branch they were perched on and saw something massive, hairy, upright, and ape-like, leaning over their fruit. The creature didn't snarl, didn't run. It simply sniffed through the basket, lifted a piece, and looked around with calm, deliberate movements. It didn't appear to notice the boys, or maybe it did, and just didn't see them as a threat. A group of friends had ventured far into the wilderness, seeking adventure. For most of the trip, it felt like any other camping trip, quiet, isolated, peaceful, until it wasn't. Without warning, the trees exploded into motion. Something enormous was barreling toward them, breaking branches, shaking the ground. They didn't look back. They just ran. In the chaos, no one had time to film. No one even turned their head. But one of them had a GoPro strapped to his chest. Later, when they played the footage back, the answer was there. A towering figure with dark, tangled fur, shoulders like boulders, a low growl rumbling beneath the sound of stomping feet. It had been charging, fast, on purpose, just one glimpse, but it was enough to remind them, and anyone who saw the footage, that the forest still holds secrets most of us aren't ready to meet face to face.